Hi, I'm Devin Dean, Content Director here at ProjectManager.com. Hi, thanks again for joining me. In today's whiteboard session, what I'd like to convey is how I actually use project issues to improve my project performance. The first thing I'd like to point out is that issues actually should start out ideally as risks. You would have plotted them when you got together with your project team members during the initiation phase of your project, put together that laundry list of things that, oh my gosh, could go wrong on your project team, assessed what the impact might be, what the cost might be to your project, and then would have come up with some mitigation activities to either lessen the impact or reduce the likelihood of that risk actually occurring. Those risks on your risk register, well, it'd be lovely if none of those eventuated, but we all know that bad things do happen, and in your project execution phase, some of those risks, a certain percentage would actually come to life, and they'll end up as being project issues that you have to deal with. There will be some other items that crop up along the way that didn't make your risk register, but nonetheless are project issues. You've got to find a way of trapping and tracking and taking in that particular item and resolving and tracking and managing that item as an issue until it's resolved. Now, one of the things that I use to do that is my issues register. The issues register looks a lot like your risk register that you created during project initiation. Just has a few extra columns added and a few of them removed as compared to the risk register, but by and large you can use a lot of the same detail that you would have captured about that particular item when it was a risk and repopulate that issues register with that information. One of the items would be, of course, a unique identifier for that issue, a simple name for that issue, a small description about that issue, who raised the issue, who's going to be the actionee to actually resolve that issue, when the issue came up, so the day of the week, or the calendar day that it actually came up, when you need that issue resolved, what the impact of that issue is, and a simple low, medium, high will do here, what the priority of that particular issue is, once again a low, medium, high will do in this case, what the ongoing activities are toward closing that issue, so on a weekly basis, what are people doing to resolve that issue, and lastly, the overall status of that issue. Is it open? Is it closed? Is it on hold? Has it been escalated if escalation is required? Once you're capturing all that information, you can then effectively track and manage it and do so in an open manner. I find when you're tracking, managing, and talking with your project team members on a weekly basis or a daily basis, if you're doing stand-up meetings with Scrum, for example, you bring those issues out in the open. There's nothing closeted or secret about the issue, and you're getting them to start collaborating and working together as a team to resolve it. Also, the person who's accountable for resolving that issue, if you're discussing these things in an open forum, certainly they want to come to that meeting prepared with the latest update, or in fact telling you that, hey, I've closed that issue, I'm such a great person, and they're getting that that pat on the back for closing that issue. If you track it openly with the project team members on a regular basis, you'll find that accountability for resolving those issues becomes inherent with the project team, and those issues will start closing down. Now, one thing that you can do to get that sense of how your project team is dealing with issues, or maybe a bit more of a sanity check on the health of your project, is actually to start tracking summary level information about your issues in your register. Let me share a little bit more about what I mean by that. So what I mean by tracking high level, summary level activity about your issues is really about looking at a macro level, what's happening with your issues on a week by week basis. It's not going down to the gnat's ass about tracking the minutiae of detail within your issues register, but what it is doing is tracking things such as how many high impact, high priority issues you have got open at a given time at the end of the week, let's say during your status reporting. So let's say you do Friday status reports. On Friday, how many issues of these nature do I have open right today? If you track that on a week-by-week basis, you can get a sense of what your variance is and see that you've got a baseline of issues that are open at a given time and whether or not that's going up or down. Now, it may be okay for 1 week for it to go up a little bit and for another week to go down, but if you see that count actually start being driven up week by week, you know that you've got a problem. You know that your project team is overloaded in doing their task as well as dealing with the issues. You've got to deal with that. So that will give you an indication you've got a hot spot. Another metric that I like to use is the number of issues that are raised in that given week. So that gives you an idea of the problems that might be happening within your project. Perhaps maybe some quality issues or configuration items, depending upon where you're on the life cycle of that project. If you see the number of issues increase as compared to last week, then you might have a problem. And so it's important to to look at that as an indication of your project health. How well your project team is dealing with those issues can be tracked by looking at how many issues are actually being closed on a week-by-week basis. So in this example, I've got 5 issues that were closed this week, hoorah. Last week I only had 1. So really my team is doing quite well in managing their ability to close and resolve those issues as they come up. That's what this sort of metric shows me here. Lastly, the average duration to close the issue. If you see this week I've got 2 days to close an issue and the previous week was 4 days, that gives me a good sense that my project team can manage their normal workload in delivering their items on the project and executing on their task, as well as the unforeseen items or these issues that come up. If you see this start increasing, so for example, week on week you see the average duration to close growing and you don't see a plateau or it coming down, then you know you've got an issue with the project team that is overworked. Maybe you want to add another resource to the project team, or perhaps take some other activities to make sure that that average duration to close stays steady or actually starts decreasing. By tracking these issues on a weekly basis, it can give you a sense of where those hotspots are, like I mentioned, and also help you improve the performance of that project team during project execution. For more project management whiteboard sessions and all your project manager needs, come see us at Pprojectmanager.com.